What's up, Heather?
What's up, B?
Well, we're excited because we're about to head back to our favorite bourbon bar, Hoppy Endings. It's been a couple weeks since we spent some time with Damien and Lydia and one of the largest collections of bourbons and whiskey in the Southeast.
And I'm excited to learn more from their whiskey travels and expertise.
Absolutely. Look, if this is your first time joining us after hitting the subscribe button, go back and watch the first episode we did. I'll link it up here with our friends at Hoppy. Then share that with a friend or two.
And check out the descriptions to find all of Tortured Bourbon socials as well as all of Hoppy Endings socials. And we're going to list all the coming events for Hoppy, including their Oktoberfest celebration, which is coming up on October 19th. So soon.
We will be there, and I have my lederhosen dry cleaned and ready, and I've got a set for your hubby to wear too.
I actually have no trouble believing that.
Anyway, we're going to relocate to Hoppy to learn more about whiskey from the resident expert Damien. Specifically, we want to understand more about the effects of aging on whiskey. Why we got to leave it in the barrel so long?
Well, you should be able to tell us about the effects of aging.
You're hilarious.
And
Before Heather tries to regale us all with more unfunny jokes about my age and lack of hair, let's head on over to Hoppy to talk to Damien, co-owner of Hoppy Endings and the expert on all things brown liquor.
let's go.
Well, here we are at Hoppy Endings,
We are.
and we are getting to meet with one of their master bartenders and bourbon extraordinaires, Aaron.
That's
I like
right.
that.
And we're going to learn about aging today
Absolutely.
and the effects of aging. So, educate us.
Yeah. So aging, something I personally believe is important, obviously, when it comes to whiskey, especially bourbon. But I don't believe it's the most important aspect of what makes a bourbon great. Or a
What do you
whiskey
think's the
great.
most important thing?
The DNA. So the grains, where they come from, where it's aged, it all affects that stuff. The casks it's aged in, the barrels it's aged in, the char on the barrels. I mean,
So, you're saying time is not but other
time
processes.
still really matters.
Yeah,
It's still very important. Obviously, you can't have this whiskey without time. Otherwise, your whiskey looks like this.
So why is this clear?
So yeah, going back to tannins, right? So the tannins naturally occur in nature. It's kind of like, so when you eat something spicy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a pepper, that's the plant's way of defending itself from other things eating it.
Okay.
Tannins are similar, like they tend to have that astringency, that bitterness, that kind of like mouthfeel that gives it like oily kind of coating in there.
Mhm.
Also dries your mouth out. Without tannins, that's what your whiskey looks like.
Okay, so tannins are in the wood.
Yep, tannins are in the wood, and really they're just the wood's way of defending itself from other animals
Okay.
or anything from eating it or tearing it apart.
So I'm going to surmise that longer in the wood equals higher tannins.
Correct.
Okay.
You are right.
Okay,
Absolutely.
there you go. And
Science.
Science, yeah.
Yes, science.
Okay.
I love
And the more
science.
tannins, the more you're gonna get like a drier start on your mouth. So like that feeling when you sip that first glass of wine or that first glass of whiskey, when it kind of just dries your mouth out, that's tannins.
I'd never known that was why.
Yeah.
So, if we were talking moonshine, traditional moonshine,
Yep.
I know that people market moonshine now.
Yeah. Not the
But-
artificial flavor.
Yeah,
No,
but we're
no.
talking. If we
The
were
real
talking,
deal,
if
North
we were,
Carolina,
if we were
Wilkes
talking
County
North,
moonshine.
yeah,
Yes.
moonshine, it's clear because you obviously don't have time to age it in a barrel.
Right.
You're putting
They're
it in the jar.
hustling,
You're
yeah.
hustling and you're going. Okay, that makes sense. So that's why it's white lightning.
Absolutely.
It's
White
clear.
wine. Yeah.
That's
And-
why it got. I had no idea.
Okay,
That's why it was
so-
named that.
So it's clear because obviously you can't have a Rickhouse with 20,000 barrels of
Yeah,
illegal
you have
illegal
your-
shine. All right,
Yeah,
you got to
exactly.
go.
I mean,
Okay,
you could. It's probably
you
not going to
could.
end well.
All right, yeah.
But NASCAR wouldn't have got invented without it.
Exactly. Exactly.
They're
Where would-
hustlers, you know what I'm
Where would
saying?
we be? Yep.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, White Lightning is rich in the North Carolina
Yeah.
history.
Absolutely. NASCAR was founded in North Carolina.
Yep.
So what are we starting with today?
We're going to start with the 2XO American Oak.
All right, and
2
how
XO
long
American
has
oak.
this been
6
aged?
years.
6 year. Okay, so this is a 6 year.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm excited to
absolutely.
have this
Cheers.
because I've
Cheers.
heard a lot about it.
They make some good products for sure.
Oh, the smell's amazing.
Yeah. We can even try the French oak
Smells
because
sweet.
I think we want to also know the difference in the wood flavor.
Sure.
Right? So
Absolutely. And
that makes a big
I had
difference.
actually never even realized that some things were aged in French oak versus American oak until I was chatting with you.
Yeah, I mean it's a big difference. Like you can look at your makers mark regular versus the 46. The only difference is what they put it in. So the French oak versus American oak
Okay.
just gives it that a different kind of flavor. The wood is it's like beer too, right? You get your hops from here, it tastes different than when you get your hops from here. Same sort of concept.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this has a longer finish.
Yeah,
To me, this has a longer finish.
but a shorter dryness in the beginning, I would say,
Yes.
than your longer aged whiskeys.
Yeah, no, it's not dry.
Right.
It's a definite shorter dryness, and not a lot of burn, if any.
Right.
Yeah. But good.
It's very good.
Still very good, yeah. 2XO, they make some
What
good
flavors
stuff.
are you getting?
I get vanilla.
Absolutely.
I get
A little bit
vanilla.
of caramel.
Vanilla and
That oak
caramel.
in there as well.
Definitely some oak. Apparently, I need to go chew on some oak bark so I can
No, yeah, we're not doing
know
all
for
that.
sure
We're not doing all that.
what oak tastes like. That and a leather strap,
But
right?
you know what oak smells like, right?
Yes.
Right.
So it tastes like what it smells like. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. I said that the other day. We were tasting one, and I was like, it tastes like a tobacco leaf. I have never chewed a tobacco leaf, but I know very well what it smells like.
Right,
And I was like, this tastes like how that smells.
Those senses are super connected.
From the mountains, and you never chewed tobacco before?
I did not. It's a good girl. It's a good girl.
There you go,
No
yeah.
substances for me.
Not until now.
Not until 21, right?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so that's our 2XO American oak.
I like
On
it.
a scale, so yeah, I know y'all have like your little rating system,
We
right?
do.
So
Yeah. I mean,
where do we
it's
put
solid.
that?
That's an everyday sipper for me. That dog will hunt.
That is.
Yep.
The proof isn't too terribly high.
Nope.
It's
Not
easy
too
to
high.
sip. It's not burning. It's a mellow, little sweet flavor.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what that dog will hunt for me, for
Yeah,
sure.
that dog will hunt. And
Everyday sipper.
we also talk about bourbons for different people and different experiences, because there's some people who are bourbon aficionados and they've had not everything at this bar, because you would
couldn't.
cease to exist. But
Talk about money forward.
yeah,
That's
money forward.
Yeah.
But we do talk about people's experience with bourbon.
Yeah.
And this is the type of bourbon for me that I can introduce someone to bourbon with.
Absolutely.
And let them know there's going to be a little burn at the end. It's going to let you know you're drinking bourbon
Yeah.
Right.
versus
But you're still
versus
gonna
Irish
get that
whiskey.
sweetness from the corn.
That's right.
It's obviously not a cognac, so it's not gonna be like super super sweet, right?
Right.
A lot of people
Right.
love cognac because it's connected to wine in some ways. It's
Yep.
like a fortified wine in some ways, right?
Yeah.
It's too sweet for me, but
But but this would be, and that's one of the things I like about when we rate That Dog Will Hunt, is that if we have people over, you know, or if our viewers have people over, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, I don't know bourbon, try this.
Yeah,
Start
just an
here.
easy cracker, drink the whole bottle in one night. You know, we're not worried
Yeah.
about it.
right.
Yeah.
So on that note, about how much does this cost?
It's probably around 50.
Okay, so we're not
At
breaking
retail.
the bank, but it's
Yeah.
an investment a little
Yeah.
bit.
TXO, they tend
Yeah.
to be a little bit pricier than like your mid-range stuff, but it's still in that area.
Are they
For sure.
in terms of size of distributor? Are they
They have a pretty good size distribution system. Yep.
okay?
Yeah,
Especially in the
this
last
is definitely
year.
the type of bourbon that B and I we sometimes have a starter sipper before we film,
Yeah,
and this would absolutely be in that
for
category.
sure. Yeah.
So it kind of warms up the palate, gets it going.
Let's get
which is what we're doing today.
Let's get a taste of the French while we're at
Okay,
it.
let's do that.
Just while we're here, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's science, right? It's for science.
It's for science. It's for the
science.
better of the community.
It's for
Right.
research.
That's what I always say.
It's for all of
I'm
you out
studying,
there.
Like,
So before we taste this, do you prefer the French oak or the American oak?
it's a mood thing for me.
Okay.
Truly, like
You would have made an excellent lawyer.
I don't know about all that.
I'm a lawyer, and the best answer you can ever give is it depends.
Yeah, no, I mean it really does depend because not every situation is the same, right?
You're
Same thing
right.
for law.
You're
obviously.
right. You're
So,
right. It's the details.
Yeah, some days I want something with a little bit more of a sweeter finish. That's what you're gonna get with the French oak. Tends to be a
Tastes
little bit,
completely different.
yeah, completely different. Same mash bill,
Doesn't it? It's completely different.
but the wood itself changes the flavor
Wow.
entirely.
So
Same
good.
mash bill, no
Same
burn,
mash bill.
Yeah,
no burn,
Mm-mm.
sweetness forward.
right. That's that French oak, right?
But I don't get as strong of the vanilla. You know what I mean? It's a
Yeah, that
subtle sweetness.
American oak tends to be very vanilla, almost toffee.
Yep, caramel.
Yeah,
This is less
those
that.
like cinnamon, toffee, caramel, all
Yep.
those kinds of flavors. This is definitely like more. I always think of French oak as like more desserty kind of flavors.
Absolutely.
But it's, I guess I would say like really sweeter wines versus the like winter cinnamon flavors.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So this is one I can imagine. I mean, you said French, so my mind went to France. You know,
Right.
I can imagine sitting out in the springtime on a terrace, like
Yeah.
sipping this after dinner.
Yeah.
This is like by a fire, you know,
Yeah,
hanging out in the
campfire.
fall.
It's got a little bit more grit
Yeah,
to it.
yeah,
A little
yeah.
bit more.
Yep. I'm not turning either of them
Viscosity.
down. But
No, for sure not.
if I had to pick, though, I think I like the French oak.
I think the French oak is a lot more approachable.
If I had to pick.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, go
for,
ahead.
well, no, probably because of the name French, right? Because the name French is in it, I'm immediately associating it with wine.
Right, yeah.
And
I thought you were going to say I like it better because it has the word French
no,
in it.
I'm associating it with wine. And when I taste it, I don't know if it's a real taste or if it's my mind doing what the mind does.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't,
It
but
doesn't.
it certainly reminds me more of a lighter red wine,
Yeah.
not a heavy red wine, but a lighter red wine. Red wine you could eat, you can drink without eating.
You know, that's a really good point.
And the American oak, definitely ridiculous statement. What does bourbon taste like?
That
Bang!
one.
Here's American oak.
Right.
Taste this.
Yeah.
Okay. Now what? How can you make it different without changing it from being bourbon?
Right.
Like you said,
Yeah.
we're still aging it. Same
Some
amount of
different
time.
wood.
We're just going to put it in some different wood.
Yeah.
And that explains.
And
That's a lot right
You
there.
brought up a really good point about the wine, right? Yeah, it is associated with wine. Actually, a lot of red wine is aged in French oak. So
Mhm.
you're going to get those notes that are similar to red wine that's made in France. They make their stuff, they put it in those barrels, or they put it in Spanish barrels. You know what I mean? That whole region, the wood grows differently, different climate,
Right.
you know. If you
Well,
have,
and you make a good point on the red because obviously, you know, the tannins associated with the red wine. And after you said that, I completely got what you were talking about with the French oak because it's that with good red wines that I prefer, I
Yeah.
don't taste like a strong sweetness or anything like that.
right, yeah.
It's just a mellow, good body to it.
Has a good body in your mouth.
Right.
Easy to sip. And yeah,
Yeah.
heavier red wines. I want to eat something.
Right.
I need
yeah.
a steak. I need a steak.
I need a steak.
exactly. Or some pasta.
You know,
Yeah.
or good
You need
pork.
something heavy.
Yeah,
Right.
you've got to have something that matches it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But a sipping red wine, let's talk about work today
Yeah,
wine.
or
Yes.
like
That fits the bill.
a 530 red wine.
That
There you
530
go.
red wine. You got it. You just hit it perfect.
Maybe have some charcuterie with it.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So quick question, and this is information. So this is done in American oak. This is done in French oak. Does it have to be? And this is still considered straight bourbon.
Yeah, it's still bourbon for sure.
So, and that's just because it was aged in oak.
Well, in order for something to be bourbon, it has to be 51% corn in the
Mm-hmm.
mash bill. It has to be made in America and aged in America. So
Okay.
there's a lot of people who have this misconception. It has to be from Kentucky. I'm sure you guys know by this point, it doesn't have
No,
to.
does definitely not have
It
to
definitely
be from
does
There's
Kentucky.
no
not, no.
regulations on that.
To
but-
be Kentucky bourbon, it's got to be
Right.
from
Yeah,
Kentucky,
right,
but not
right.
Yeah,
And to
like
be-
Tennessee whiskey.
to be
with
Tennessee
Tennessee
whiskey,
whiskey.
it's gotta be
Tennessee, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Just the general
kernel.
category, the general umbrella of bourbon, it has to be 51% corn, and it has to be made in America.
So American oak, French oak, as long as we age it in America,
And it's 51% corn.
we can. And if it's in there for a minimum, it's straight.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So it didn't have to start in American oak and then finish it in something else.
Nope, not at all.
So my last question on this one, I just want to make this is 6 years as well, right? Or is it?
It's probably 6
It's probably
years or
6
4
years
to
as
6
well.
years.
Okay, so around the same age.
I'm not sure if they actually blend theirs or it's a single barrel or a small batch. I'm not sure.
But it's young.
It's definitely younger than your Henry McKenna 10. for sure.
On that note, should we
Let's
jump?
talk
Should we
about-
jump to Henry?
Let's talk
jump
about
over,
Henry.
Yeah. Mr.
I'm
Henry.
really glad you had us go ahead while you pour that and compare the French oak and the American oak, because that's not something I had experienced before.
No.
Yeah. No, there's a huge difference on the palate.
All right,
That could be a whole nother show.
Oh, it could be.
I mean,
absolutely. We could talk about it. There could be 4 other shows, to be honest. with
Yeah.
you.
we'll talk after this
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
So we all know this one has a loyal following.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Henry McKenna, 10-year. It's a lot of
Heaven
people's
Hill.
top of their list.
Yep.
Heaven Hill.
And
They
in
make
the-
a thing or two in the
Yeah,
market.
they do. They do.
And at the store in South Carolina yesterday or day before yesterday, it was $75 a bottle, which is way up from.
North Carolina MSRP.
Yep. And what it started at, I mean, we did some research on Henry McKenna. You're talking $35-$40 a bottle 5
Yep.
years ago.
Absolutely.
And now you're
Well,
$75 off the shelf.
that
at a Total
secondary
Wine.
market has really
Yeah.
kind of destroyed everything else.
Yeah. So do you think it's purely a supply and demand thing, and what becomes popular jacks the price up, or do you think there's some?
Yes.
Do you think there's some worthiness there for it? Like,
I don't. In regards to the actual market, I don't believe that there's any association with great whiskey and price.
it's what's popular,
Yeah, it's what's popular. So Pappy used to sit up on the shelves and collect dust.
and now it's the thing.
Now it's $10,000 a bottle. So it's like, it's just because people want it, right?
The
Even
product
though
hasn't changed.
Right.
The product hasn't changed. The story hasn't changed. The taste hasn't changed. There's nothing different about it. It's just people want it. Okay, now we can resell it for a higher price because people want it and it's hard to get. That's all there is
So
to it.
we've talked a lot that we kind of feel like even the more and more we get into this, the more and more we learn, the more and more we try to develop our palates to be a little more sophisticated. There's a point at which it's not worth the money. Our palates
Absolutely.
cannot be advanced enough to justify
Mine
No,
the
for
price.
sure. No, yeah.
And
you
so
have, sorry, I'm
it sounds like you're the same way, though. Is what
no,
I'm saying.
absolutely, yeah. And there's so many good, cheap bourbons, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that
One of
$50 to $100 range is pretty gold.
it's gold, but there's bottles that you can get for $20 that are delicious.
you'll enjoy.
You know, you're gonna drink them every day.
Shout out Benchmark.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Benchmark, very old Barton, old Bardstown. I mean,
We like old
all
bars.
We
kinds
like
of-
old Bardstown.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
all kinds of good stuff that's just really cheap that I would pick over a $120 bottle every day of the week. You know,
Dude,
what
the Evan Williams bottled in bond is
Solid.
solid.
very solid.
And it's like,
yeah.
what, $22?
Yeah, exactly.
So back to Henry.
Sorry, yeah.
No,
I
this is
got
great.
really bad ADHD.
No, it's
some
okay,
ways.
dude. We will go on tangents with you all
Yeah,
day.
all day.
So,
Henry
back to
McKenna,
our favorite
10 year.
Irish immigrant.
Yeah,
here.
Henry McKenna, 10
Yeah.
year. What do you get? I'm definitely getting. There's a little more dryness.
So yeah, going back to those
There's
tannins,
more
right?
dryness.
More tannins, more dryness.
A little bit. Burn is almost the wrong word. Heat is the word I'm going to use.
Yeah.
A little bit more
It could
heat
be the
in the
proofing, too.
back. It
This
is
is
a
100
little
proof.
bit stronger proof. It's 100 because it's bottled in bond. This, and I think I've told you this before because we have tasted this one before.
Yeah.
When I think of what bourbon tastes like, this one is, in my mind, like a very good example of what a
Absolutely.
bourbon tastes like.
I feel like this is a perfect staple in the bourbon world. This is what it tastes like and what it's supposed to taste like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What about you, B?
Well, to me, it's a little more mellow.
Yeah. Okay.
Stage on there too.
yeah.
Has a little more mellow, but has a little more. I wish I had a better term for this. Mouth. I
Yeah.
feel like a little more mouth,
That's the tannins as well. So that goes
and
to the
I-
mouthfeel.
and I like that feel. I
Yeah.
think one reason the first time I tried Colonel Taylor,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I felt that.
Absolutely.
I felt that mouth to it.
Yeah.
And I now seek that out in bourbon. It's like
Sure.
I'm looking for that.
So
Something
you like
a-
something that tends to be aged a little
a
bit
little
longer.
thicker.
Yeah.
He likes
Um,
something he can chew on.
yeah.
For lack of a better.
Right, yeah,
yeah.
And not always, but if you're asking me to go on a taste test
To generalize.
to generalize,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I know that's not, but might not be the best entry for someone else.
Right.
No, I
Maybe not. But
yeah, but maybe.
but maybe right.
You
for
never
some
know.
people, yeah.
No, and I agree with you. We had one recently, and I kept trying to articulate to you why I liked it, but I didn't love it. And it was what you're saying right now is that it almost felt like water.
Right.
Yep.
There was
It's too
nothing
young.
to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like you said, it's almost like once you, especially after you get into it a little more, you want something with some substance.
Absolutely, yeah.
You want to taste it.
And it really does go back to
As
those
far
tannins.
as flavor profile, what are you getting? I still get a little bit of that vanilla.
You're definitely gonna get that.
Yeah.
I'm getting caramel.
You're definitely gonna get that.
I'm getting caramel forward.
Some oak.
And it's 50, it's at least 51%, but the corn's there.
Right.
The corn sweetness is in the front.
For sure.
Yeah. Absolutely.
This I'm able to hold in my mouth, like you said, and chew a little longer, and I enjoy that. I can keep it in the front and swirl it.
Those oils from the wood, man.
Yeah, but I don't get the dragon tail. I mean, it just rolling. I know I've had bourbon. I like that feeling. I know it's burning.
like the warm.
I know it's
That's
warm.
what I meant by heat versus
but it's
burn.
not.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's not burning, and if that's the difference between 6-ish, 4 to 6-ish, and 10.
You're gonna take
That makes a
10.
lot of sense. It
I'm
makes a
gonna take
lot
the
of
10.
sense.
So I mean, that's the trade-off, right? You're gonna get more dryness up front, but you are gonna get a longer finish on the palate. There's gonna be more notes there that you can pick out, but it's also gonna be smoother because you're getting more flavor.
This would be
aging longer,
this would be my Friday evening.
Yeah,
after the whole work week.
for
bourbon.
sure. Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like I want something that tastes really good and is easy to drink, but at the same time it has a little bit of mouthfeel.
No, I mean for these guys, I would probably use them in cocktails even.
Those would be so good in an old fashioned.
Old fashions
or a Godfather.
Yeah,
Anything bourbon forward where you still want the flavor.
Yeah, or even like a penicillin, like the
Yep.
French oak and a penicillin.
Fantastic.
I was
Sesame
just sitting here thinking, I was like, either of those in a Godfather would be.
Yeah, totally.
And I understand price point in the sense that, I mean, we can argue numbers all day, but if I'm a producer, if I'm a distiller, and this has to sit in my Rickhouse for 10 years, and this has to sit in my Rickhouse for 4 to 6 years,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make my money, right?
Absolutely.
I'm going to make up for it.
But they're
because that's
just
space.
around the same price point.
That's
what's
yeah,
crazy
that's
to
crazy,
me.
right?
I was about
That's
to
crazy.
reemphasize. So this is running now. I mean, it depends on if you get it MSRP or if you get it on the secondary
I
market.
think MSRP is still around 50,
it's
but you're
50
paying
to
75.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And we paid, for the bottle we have that we got up in Maryland, we paid around 65 for it.
Which is not terrible.
And
So
I
that's
didn't feel,
about
because we
average, it
couldn't
sounds like.
find it around
Yeah,
here.
it's
So
not,
I didn't
that's
feel
not a terrible price.
Yeah, I didn't feel hot. I mean, I was on vacation. Why not?
Yeah, why not? Right?
Vacation B can buy.
Yeah.
There you go.
But that's why we went with it. And good for it.
Yeah, and
Totally
it's
worth it.
Always going to be
Absolutely worth
solid. The cool thing also is I feel like every time you drink a Henry McKenna 10, it tastes different out of a different bottle.
Absolutely. So we are doing a bottled and bond series right now, and this was profiled in our final episode.
Yeah, and
this tastes different than the bottle we cracked a week ago.
and I
It
do
is.
think it's the only
I like this bottle better.
the only
There you go.
bottled and bond single barrel we had. Because
Yes,
our Colonel Taylor
you're
was
right.
a small batch.
Yep.
Okay.
It
You're
wasn't
right.
there.
So plain.
Yeah.
Also delicious.
Also
Yeah, no,
delicious.
really good.
But
either
for
way,
the money, when you start talking about price points and single barrel,
I'm always going to take a single barrel over small batch.
Yeah.
That's a personal preference for me
Why?
because I like something that tastes different, but also same. So like Damien and Lydia, for example, when they go make a barrel pick, they get to go into the Rickhouse and point out, hey, I want this barrel because it's in the corner, which means more heat's getting to it. So it's expanding and it's contracting more.
Now,
than
can
this
you
barrel.
explain a little bit,
Shit.
because we've chatted off camera, but explain a little bit for our audience.
Yeah.
Where it is in the Rickhouse and why Kentucky is a great climate for bourbon. Like, what does that difference make, that climate and
it's
the
just-
location?
Yeah, it's just the extreme climate. So the really hot summers, the very humid hot summers, really cold winters.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing like with tequila, for example, or like any agave spirit. Mexico does not have to age their stuff as long because they have a very extreme climate. You look at Scotch, you have to age your stuff a long
Because
time.
it's just cold and wet.
Yeah, there's no,
I-
it's not as dynamic in a climate. where
every
it's
day
going
in
up and
Scotland,
down.
it rains.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
It's
This is
exactly.
just it. It's cold and
Right.
wet.
So I mean, that's just the main
Yeah.
difference is climate, which also affects the flavor because
So that's it's expanding and contracting that barrel.
right.
So that's bringing in those flavors.
Those vanilla.
So the
notes,
longer you're
all that
aging,
stuff.
the more
Yeah.
you're pulling
And
that
it pulls
out.
moisture out and it pushes moisture in and it pulls
Yeah.
the alcohol out and it puts.
Yeah,
So
and then you're
it's-
gonna get your evaporation as well, your angel share, right?
All right. So this is where science meets art.
Correct. Absolutely
Because you can't control all of nature's variables.
right.
So
Which
you've
is
got to
what makes
have
it so special.
So you got to have experience over time running that distillery to know.
Yeah.
Okay, we've had a year of this type of weather. This is what's going to happen to this
Exactly.
bourbon versus what. wild. You got to take some notes if you're running a
It's
distillery.
amazing. No, it really is amazing because those master distillers are pretty much chemists.
Yeah.
Like they really are chemists and meteorologists all at the same time, right?
And artists.
And artists, of course.
So Aaron, you walk into Rickhouse. What barrel are you picking? In Kentucky. We'll go with Kentucky.
I'm going high for
You're
sure.
going high.
I'm
Okay.
going high on the in the Rickhouse. Probably a corner.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a dark corner. That's just me.
That's
He likes
just you.
dark corners too.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh Lord.
Oh, good Lord. All right. Tell us about Baker's 13 because this is, you hear a lot about Baker's.
Sure.
Obviously, a product of, I think, the Jim Beam company, but
Yes, Mr.
but certainly
James.
not your typical Jim Beam product.
No, not at all.
Okay.
It is still going to be similar mash bills as Jim Beam, believe it or not, but just aged longer. It's kind of like their glorified product, their little baby.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
mean, they've been around a while.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
they know what they're doing.
for sure.
Yeah, they've made a product or
Yeah.
four. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, when you say the same mash bill, I think that's something that when I first
Similar.
started getting it, first starting into bourbon, Buffalo Trace has 2 mash bills.
Yeah.
They have all these products.
hmm
They have
But they
2
all
mash
taste
bills.
different.
They all taste different.
Yeah.
And Brown Foreman only has but so many mash bills,
Absolutely.
and that they make these variety of products.
For sure.
They're aged differently, different wood, different places.
It makes a big difference.
But this is, so you start here and you can do
pretty much
that's the
anything,
artistry,
right? Yeah.
That's the artistry.
So that's going back to like what I was saying. I really believe that the DNA of your spirit is of the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
So even going down to the specifics of what you put your proof into the barrel, that matters.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? If you go in high proof, it's going to come out a higher proof. But that also interacts with the wood differently than if you put it in at a lower proof, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So all of that stuff matters for sure.
Well, I think it's really interesting, and we've been talking about lately, and one of our new favorites exemplifies this. Bourbon makers, whiskey makers are getting more into, like you said, the DNA of it. They are creating their own strands of corn.
Absolutely.
And they are going to very specific streams for their water.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing how, you might start so many years before you actually see the bottle on the shelf. But it does make a difference.
Oh yeah. I mean, even down to the water.
And we've talked about how much we like, the different bourbons that focus on their local agriculture and their local products.
Sure, yeah.
So
with this, I'm getting immediately my mouth is drying out more.
yes, absolutely.
But there's
what do we attribute that to?
Tannins.
Yeah.
We're gonna get a shirt that just says
Yeah.
Tannins.
Exactly.
So for the viewers at home, the word of the day is Tannins.
T for Tannins.
Yeah,
We're
absolutely.
basically Sesame Street around here.
No, I'm here for it.
I get a little. I definitely taste a lot of oak.
Yeah.
It's at the oak's now at the forefront.
Yeah, it's at the forefront.
Right.
Absolutely.
The first sip, I was like, "There's something very different here."
But there's also going to be a longer flavor profile, probably.
It's long, but there's a little bit more of the heat.
Definitely.
Are you getting a little bit more heat?
I think that the oak is so much different. Everyone's taste buds are different. The first thing it hits me with is oak.
Oh yeah, I'm saying the back end.
Yeah, that sip I took a few seconds ago, the first was like oak.
Yeah.
Oak.
Mhm.
And immediately I wanted to say, okay, it's got to be 20 degrees cooler outside.
We need to be in the woods.
That's
Right.
right. It's
Exactly.
it's
camping. This would be the perfect fall
this
camping
is
bourbon.
this is not. It's 80 degrees in September here in North Carolina, and I'm tired of it.
Yeah.
But this is when we come in November.
Mm-hmm.
Find me an older aged bourbon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When it's a little cooler outside, and I'll go sit outside and really
Just
enjoy
relax.
this.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's also a perfect comparison.
It
about,
is.
it is
It's such a
absolute.
good
I
comparison.
love comparing these two because the age. So Baker's going to be single barrel. Henry McKenna is also a single barrel. This is 10 years. This is 13 years.
It's a great comparison.
You can tell that, honestly, I prefer the Henry McKenna.
Yeah. So what is this coming in price-wise before we do a
Oh,
comparison?
price-wise, you're probably looking at 150 to
Okay.
200.
So with that factored in, first of all, this is a strong hush your mouth for me on
Yeah.
our rating
Oh
scale.
yeah, that's Hush Your Mouth.
This one is hush your mouth, not quite as strong as this one.
Yep.
But if I'm picking, I'm absolutely going with the Henry
Oh,
McKenna
this
10
is
years.
a Hush Your Mouth. I mean, this
Yeah,
is
but I'm
a
saying
lot
if
of
I'm
quality.
picking-
But if if you put both of these next to one another in a blind taste, I think I'm going for this one.
I'm going with this one, and then when I find out the price, I'm definitely
Definitely
Yeah,
going with that.
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, what's the rating again? Like, how does it?
So we
So-
started,
Bottom
the
to
best
top.
of the best is Cock of the Walk.
Okay.
And
Cock of
the
we've
Walk.
only had a couple of those.
Okay.
Colonel Taylor, Small Batch, and Baby Jane Heirloom,
Yeah.
actually. We
Okay.
both
Yep.
Baby
love
Jane
that
is
one.
awesome.
And it's unique.
Yeah,
Its
absolutely.
uniqueness put it to.
It kind of
Cock
goes
the
back to
Walk.
what we were
Sure.
talking about with the like starting from baby steps with your corn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, hush your mouth. You take it into a party, and people are like, "Wow." It's a wow moment.
Yeah, it's a.
Okay.
It's just a
It might
really
not be the
good-
best you've ever, but it's wow.
It's a good impressive bourbon.
It's a good impressive
You're gonna buy it
bourbon.
again.
You're gonna
Right.
buy it again. And then that dog will hunt is your look.
Every day?
Every day. It's your everyday reliable dog, right?
Yeah.
So
It's
for
not
me,
average.
it's Michter's.
It's
Yeah,
not average.
Michter's.
Michter's
It's-
is my
yeah.
everyday, like, I will always have it on my shelf.
It's
Like,
always easily.
when in
That's right.
doubt, default. Elijah Craig is a
Yep.
strong, that dog will
Totally.
hunt.
And then you've
Old
got
Forester.
and then
Old Forester,
yeah,
absolutely,
and then
yeah.
you drop a line below that. It's bless your heart. Where okay, you put this in
tried.
Coke.
You
you
tried.
tried.
You
but,
tried.
but we're
Good-
putting
good
we're putting
try.
this in Coke.
Yeah.
And
We're
as-
mixing it.
You know,
Totally.
and as much as Jack Daniels for me will always be hush your mouth.
It's designed to be that
It'll
way.
That's
be,
right.
You mean it'll be blush your
Bless your heart. Yeah,
Yeah,
bless your heart.
designed
I'm
to
gonna
be
I was like, did you have
yeah.
a brain
No,
transplant?
I'm gonna put it in Coke and I'm gonna enjoy it. We're gonna
Yeah.
take it to the tailgate.
Yep.
We're
For
gonna
sure.
put it in Coke. We're gonna drink it all day, and we're
Absolutely.
and it's how they intended it, right?
Yeah.
The price point. There's nothing wrong with it,
It's
but
exactly
know what it's
it
there
needs
for.
to be, right?
Yeah.
And then there's Piddlin,
Which we've only had one of those so far,
Just-
and it was mellow corn.
mellow corn.
And it's
That's gonna happen.
it's don't buy it.
Don't buy it.
Leave it on the shelf. If you did buy it, then sit it out there at when people are wasted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For them
Th-
to
this
mix
is-
with
Put it in
whatever
the-
they
put it
want to
in-
mix
whatever
it
Put
with.
it
you
in
wanna-
the Henry McKenna
Put it in the
bar.
jungle, put it in the jungle juice and call it a day.
Yeah, and be done
yeah,
with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But we're finding that you've got to search for Piddlin,
Yep.
and you've got to search for Cock of the Walk.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
But we are finding a significant amount, and I think this is due to demand and want.
Right.
We're finding a significant amount of that dog will hunt
Oh yeah. I mean,
because
right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's so much stuff, and there's so much good stuff.
There is. Yeah.
That's like impressive, and you can drink it every day.
That's right.
That's what's awesome
Yeah.
about bourbon.
I know, and I think we've talked about this before, but just overall, one of the best parts of all of this is you can have conversations like this with your friends. Like
Yeah.
what we've done right here, it
That's the
spawns
beauty of
togetherness, it spawns hanging out and having these conversations.
Totally.
It lets you compare and contrast. I didn't know I liked rye heavy. I didn't know I
Yeah.
liked wheat
Yeah.
heavy. You know, it lets you have those conversations.
No, absolutely.
So to sum up, Aaron, thank you to start with. Thank you.
Absolutely,
Thank you to
yeah.
Hoppy
It's a
Endings.
pleasure,
What
yeah.
we've learned today, the word of the day is
Tannins.
But what we also learned is the wood makes a difference.
Yeah.
And we're going to come back and we're going to visit another time and we're going to talk about wood.
What did he say?
We're gonna
Let's
talk
do
about
it.
French
The
oak,
French
and
oak, American oak, and all types of
All,
oak.
all types of wood, and also
absolutely.
the grains matter too, right? So where
Yeah.
you source your grains from, your
Well, that's a
water
whole
matters.
different
That's a whole
episode.
other episode.
Oh, we got
some episodes.
I think we got a series with Aaron coming
And-
on
and
right
how
now.
we-
Bourbon with Aaron.
Yeah,
And how we always conclude being we're good Southerners. We
Yeah.
always say, cheers, y'all.
Cheers, y'all.
Cheers,
y'all.
y'all.